Welcome to the channel of United Emissaries of Light. If you like this near-death experience story, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now, let's start with the story. As a shaman, I guide people through the Native American sweat ceremony, a method used for emotional and spiritual healing. 45 minutes into a sweat ceremony we held one Saturday night, I began to experience discomfort on the left side of my chest. With the goal of alleviating the pain, I left the hut to get some fresh air. As I gazed upon the stillness of the bay before me in the darkness, I watched as bubbles of multicolored luminescent light danced on its glassy surface. Astonished and enthralled by such a rare spectacle, I stood and watched in awe and delight, yet as entranced as I was by their captivating performance. At the time I didn't attribute any particular meaning or significance to it. Enlivened by that charming and vivid pageant, I returned to the sweat ceremony, but each time I closed my eyes to relax, I had the uncanny sense that I was truly there in the dreamlike realm of my waking dream. Dismissing the uncanny sensation as a side effect of mental fatigue exacerbated by fasting, I continued with the ceremony despite the excruciating tightness in my chest that I was experiencing by the end of the third round. With the ceremony over earlier than usual, I left with my friend, who invited me to have dinner at his home. As we sat down to dinner, I suddenly became very dizzy and began to feel as though my chest was being torn apart. My friend, sensing my severe discomfort, asked if I was experiencing a heart attack. Unsure about how to answer his question, I asked him to take me to the emergency room at the local hospital. On the way to the hospital, I tried to calm myself by telling myself that my symptoms weren't caused by any serious condition, despite my friend's very visible consternation. Suddenly, with great curiosity, I found myself watching my friend driving and me sound asleep in the passenger seat, from a position outside the car. As features of the beautiful surrounding landscape began to draw my attention, I moved away from the car in order to examine them more closely. Upon closer appraisal of that idyllic panorama, I realized I was in the very same realm as the waking dream I had during the sweat ceremony earlier that day. Out of curiosity, I began to follow a mountain path that started as a stony trail, became a cobblestone pathway as it ascended, and forked towards the entrance of a tunnel. As the path wove left and right, it veered towards a gloomy and noisy domain. Suddenly, I found myself standing at the edge of a canyon, frightened, within the boundary of an indescribably horrifying region where the light was filtered by the ash that pervaded the atmosphere. As I surveyed that appalling expanse, the runs of barbed wire and the torches with yellow-green flames scattered throughout the rocky landscape reminded me of a World War II battlefield, and I knew that if that place wasn't in fact hell itself, it was at least a place of great despair. Suddenly, I found myself looking at what appeared to be stone statues of people through the walls of a tunnel. With their focus set on an indeterminate future, there are those who wait for life and react to the events beyond their control as they unfold before them, while there are those for whom life burgeons, I heard a voice say as I traveled through the tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, I saw a sliver of light, and at that moment, I wondered if I might have died. Suddenly, I found myself overlooking a boundless field of green, from which flowers of all colors blossomed and trees sang songs of welcome. Who am I to deserve such an elaborate welcome? I wondered as I listened to their captivating song. As I surveyed that enchanting countryside, I saw in the distance a brilliantly illuminated city that magnetically drew my attention. I began to make my way towards the dazzling city, and as I neared it, I could see within the city a temple-like structure filled with thousands of people who cheered and welcomed me. To my pleasant surprise, I watched as members of my family and friends who had long since passed on began to emerge from the refulgent temple. I saw, among others, my grandfather, aunts, uncles, cousins, relatives I only knew from family photos, childhood friends, and even their relatives among the group that came to welcome me. As I regarded the various forms before me, I noticed that among them were beings whose limbs embodied flame and who were refulgent with light. After spending some time in endearing exchanges with those present, I turned towards the members of my family, who had suddenly become very silent when a presence that shone brighter than all the suns of the universe suddenly appeared. As the enigmatic entity that was the light embraced me, enveloped me in its love, and bid me welcome, I realized that I had in fact died. It was then that I experienced a life review, in which moments from birth to death unfolded as a single, complete event, with each memory forming inseparable parts of the whole. With my life mission complete, the energy of that most Holy Spirit and my energy merged into one, and for an interminable instant, I experienced the purity and depth of boundless love, a love that no words can adequately describe. Is there anything you would like to do? The light asked. I would like a few minutes to say goodbye to my family, I replied. Go, the light replied as it released me from its loving embrace. No, I replied, fearing that I might not be able to return to the light's embrace. It was then that I began to feel a separation from the light. As the unity of one became two again, I started to consider that the infinite love represented by the light might actually lie within my own heart and soul, regardless of the path I choose to follow. I have not discussed the things I saw and experienced during my NDE with others until now. I know that I cannot explain them or attribute unequivocal meaning to them. I understand that to be human is to be much more than we have allowed ourselves to be, and that we deny ourselves so many possibilities. After 10 years in the clergy, I left in search of a deeper meaning. I have found that in my solitude, I experience a closeness to God that I never found in talking about Him or listening to others speak about Him or discuss their faith.